Today is March 6th, edition of Back Roads of Illinois. I am your host, Cesar Delgado, for today. This is your agricultural news and information on the farmers and ranchers in the Midwest alongside in the countryside. The Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, visited the Commodity Classic in Houston. He took a look for SF and E15 to go back to the Supreme Court taking this case in Washington. Last week, the President Joe Biden signed on the E15 for the national. This time to look your ARC and PLC by the deadline for March 15th. You must sign up for the federal insurance before the planting season. Question what's going on with the farm bill for ARC and PLC, or ARC is getting some more restrictions on the federal insurance beforehand. I don't know. We were talking about Brazil's soybean production with Joanna Calusi from the University of Illinois in Champaign. I am sorry for the convenience, but we were going to talk with Joanna Calusi on Friday. Otherwise, we'll talk about the livestock market and cattle expansion with Brad Kooima from Kooima Firm for today's program. Keeping right here on Back Roads of Illinois. We're right back with Brad Kooima next on Back Roads of Illinois. I'm Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois. I am joining with Brad Kooima from Kooima Kooima Evielk Trading in Sioux Center, Iowa. Brad is an analysis for the cattle markets for 44 years. Brad is part of Iowa Cattlemen Association and National Cattlemen Association as well. Welcome to the show. How are you, Brad? How is in Northwest Iowa?
Thanks for having me on, Cesar. Things are well. Market is in pretty good shape here, and our weather has been much better. January was a struggle with some tough weather. But for March, I think anybody would take this kind of, dry feedlot conditions, and the performance of the cattle have been pretty good here the last while. Now, if we just get the market a little bit higher, we'd all be happy, right?
Let's start with our conversation with the cattle expansion in these days. Brad, they say that the cattle herd its slowest since 1951. Some say we were seeing a larger number for this spring or summer. Could you clear that up to our listeners?
Absolutely. That's a good question. And you're right about, setting up the supply side fundamentals. It's the smallest cow herd since 1951. I think everybody's heard that, but I mean, let's extrapolate a little further. When you look at the cattle on feed report and the cattle imbalanced with the cattle inventory report that we received in January, those reports put together would tell me that there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million less cattle outside of feed yards waiting to be placed. So that's the supply of cattle we got to draw against here to replace feeder cattle, that live cattle that we're going to sell here the next little while. So the things are going to be, from a supply side standpoint, things are going to be the tightest they've ever been, at least in modern history, moving forward here. So from a supply side standpoint, the market is set up in extremely fundamentally sound shape.
What is your opinion on the corn market is down for the feed yard, for the stocker?
The corn market's been in a downtrend here for a long time. And Is there anything in the short-term fundamentals that makes me think there's a reason to think that that will change? I would say probably not. The whole grain spectrum is struggling with a large world supply of wheat. Wheat made new lows today for the recent move. Corn is not very far from its lows, but I would caution your listeners a little bit. We're in the 1st of March here. This is a very typical time for a market like the corn and the beans to make seasonal lows. And it'd also be very typical to see a little improvement as we move towards springtime in that April to May 1 slot. It'd be not the first time that the market worries about too wet, too hot, too cold, too dry, something, the spring rally, as it were, or incentive to plant rally, my dad used to call it. The market, to me, is we're at a spot here where if I was an end user, like a cattle feeder, like I am, I'm kind of more prone to be looking at this as a potential buying opportunity, just to make sure we keep this feed cost in line down here. Backed up cattle to a fairly well because we couldn't get them dead in 2020 in the bulk, the bulk of the trade of 20 because of the COVID restrictions and the problems, inability to, find people to work and all the rest. That'd be fine with me if we don't ever have to go through something like that again, sir.
There's been swamped at the Packers for a couple years. They are trying to get back on again since 2021.
To me, that's one of the interesting things about trying to be analytical with cattle. It's different than corn, right? That's a storable commodity. You put it in the bin, how many bushels you put in, then roughly that's how many bushels you're going to get back out. The cattle are perishable and they grow. Okay. So if you sell cattle early, a month early, say, or comparatively to where, like you were talking about in 20 and 21, when you were carrying cattle for an extra month, you think about that, that's 60 days out of a year, 2 months. You're talking about changing supply by 15% or so, only by changing whether you're current or whether you are uncurrent. So, and it takes longer to get through both of those sides of the market than anybody expects. I really think the market right now, we are relatively current. We'll be watching these weights very carefully here the next little while. Typically the weights go down this time of year. Hopefully that'll continue. If that doesn't, that'd be your first marker that maybe we're backing some cattle up.
Are you kidding about that?
No, I wish I was. This light slaughter, year-to-date slaughter is down 5.2% at a time when we should be killing more than a year ago. So I'm very sensitized to whether or not we're killing enough cattle to stay current right now.
Do you have any final thoughts on the cattle markets?
Well, if you don't mind, I might just throw out a little bit of a comment. I continue to hear people fretting about demand. The box beef up here where it is above 300 have never been this high this time of year before, other than the COVID year. So to me, I think demand is fine. And I even to the point where I worry that the more people that talk about demand, you put a mindset out there and people think, well, maybe it is too high then, right? There are plenty of things in our economy that are high priced. I think meat is a great product and a great value. And so to me, I think the industry is in decent shape and demand is just fine.
Yes, I agree with you, especially the meat.
Well, let's get some warmer weather and get everybody get their grill fired up and see if we can't move even a little more of this stuff.
Thanks for coming. My pleasure that you joined the show for today. Thanks. You're welcome to join the show anytime.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. Best of luck.
This is Brad Kooima from Kooima Firm in Sioux Center, Iowa. Thanks to Brad Kooima for coming. We'd like to see the cattle markets than the grain market after the first week of January. It's falling into the grab for the grain market. Well, I should be open-minded about the grain market. We'll see how does the acreage report on March 30th. This is your commodity markets update on the Board of Trade in Chicago. Start off with corn market is down for this morning. March corn is down from today at 4.16 half. May corn is lower than previously weeks from today at 4.28. July corn is down as well on the half at 4.38. Let's take a look at the beans markets. March beans are down at 11.45. March is going away. May beans is turning the green light as 11.57. July beans are up at 11.67. We were taking a look for wheat. Chicago wheat is down to sell off on today. March wheat is down at 5.50. May is down at 5.52. July wheat is down for the half at 5.56. Now that we were going to talk about the livestock market for today. Live cattle is up for today. April cattle is up at 187 at the board. June cattle is up at 182. August cattle is up at 182 on the half. Let's go with lean hog. April hog is down at 85 at the quarter. May hog is down from today at 91 and a half. June hogs is down at 101 and a half. This is your commodity markets update on back roads of Illinois. All right, everybody. Don't forget about Super Tuesday for today. Continue with national political views for right now alongside taking care of our border. So whatever. My opinion is in my mind. We'll see you tomorrow with Carl Seltzer from Konishagen, Michigan. What in the world that cowboy is in Michigan? From back roads of Illinois, I am Cesar Delgado. Have a great day.